Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and I hope that you had a very beautiful weekend. It's Monday here in North America, and I want to just give a shout out to everybody who tuned in on Saturday for a very, very special guest appearance with Terry Angel. Terry Angel, the host of numerous shows right here on Enlightened World Network, sat down with me for about a half an hour of really wonderful and really uplifting conversation about spirituality in general, about A Course in Miracles, and about her Peace on Earth tour. Now, Terry's right up the road right now in Sedona, Arizona. I'm based in Phoenix, and we had a great conversation. So that's from this Saturday, May 1st. As you know, I do have guest speakers come on this live stream every few weeks. I've had a few people come on, and Marbeth Dunn has been here, Kim Venter has been here, and Deb Goldberg has joined me. So you want to catch Terry's episode for a number of different reasons, but she's got such an infectious warmth and a beautiful, loving, caring, compassionate energy. And when she talks about her own experience with A Course in Miracles, it's deeply, deeply resonant. So that's from Saturday, May 1st. You'll want to catch that. Now, you can find that on the YouTube channel for Enlightened World Network. There is a playlist for every single show on the network, and this is A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. You'll find Terry on there, and definitely thank you, Terry, for joining me. I'm going to want to have you back on here, don't you know? Because there's so much that we could talk about. So I hope that you were able to catch that. And if you have not caught that, do yourself a great favor in terms of spirituality and catch that really wonderful episode from Saturday, May 1st. And why do I say do yourselves a favor? Because I want to piggyback on that today. And as I started last week, I'm going to spend every Monday here on the live stream, rather than talking specifically about an ACIM workbook lesson, I'm going to talk about general spiritual principles, general life principles, and I'm calling it a special focus of the day. Now, today's special focus is inspired by my conversation with Terry. And it's so chock full of wisdom, especially for people that are studying A Course in Miracles, that I really want to spend some time on it today. And that's integration of spiritual lessons into your life. Integration was a word that Terry used, and I'll give you the context. I really love it because spirituality is a process. It's a process which you know full well. We may have blinding flashes and blinding flashes of light, blinding flashes of enlightenment, quantum leaps are indeed possible, but it is not in our best interest as students. It's not in our best interest as meditators or spiritual practitioners to expect that. When we expect it, we're all too often disappointed when it doesn't happen. And I've taught many people over the years basic sitting meditation, and it's a common disappointment because people think that just if they sit down and they're able to meditate for 10 or 15 minutes, that they're going to acquire the wisdom of Buddha in 10 to 15 minutes. And inevitably, if someone goes in with that kind of an expectation, that expectation is pretty quickly dashed. I mean, it could be dashed within 5 seconds when our minds race off and start thinking about tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, they start thinking about all kinds of different things, and pretty soon my knee hurts and I got to itch my face. I wonder if that's okay, if I can itch my face in meditation, or if I swallow too hard, will people notice? That kind of thing goes through our heads. So spirituality is a process. It's a process, and it's about showing up every day, whatever that looks like for you, to do the practical work. Now, the practical work varies, doesn't it? Obviously, based on the different spiritual traditions that exist in this world. Practical work could look like a walk on the beach or in the mountains, in the park. For me, it's the desert. It could be a yoga practice, maybe some exercise, maybe it's prayer, maybe you have a devotional, or you're a Course in Miracles student and you're going through the workbook right now. Whatever that looks like for you, spiritual practice is about our showing up with that. And it's more about integrating the lessons into our lives. That's what's really, really important. That's what's the most important, is integrating these principles into our lives and our experience. That's how you can tell that this has been a positive transformation for you. Indeed, that is how you tell over a period of time that you've transformed. I've been saying for a couple of weeks on this live stream, it's worth saying again, that if you feel like you're not getting anywhere in your practice, which is a common enough thing, right? Sometimes we just kind of think to ourselves, oh, I'm not getting anywhere. Why am I doing this again? And it can be really helpful to look at where you are as a person right now, as a spiritual being. Where are you right now, as opposed to where you started? And if that was several months or several years ago, it could be very easy, hopefully it is, to see how much you've actually changed, you've actually grown, you've actually forgiven, you've actually transformed. That can be really heartening and a lightening experience, because we do have those moments, don't we? We all have those days where we wonder why we're doing this, because it doesn't seem like anything's moving. Yet, if we look back over time, a lot has moved. And it's very easy to see that if you continue to show up, if we continue to show up and meditate and do the workbook lessons or practice or extend gratitude, forgiveness, love, whatever your practice is, if you continue to show up and do it, it's easy to see, if you take this attitude, that more, more good is going to come out of that. And it's about integrating this into your life. Now, if you are a student of A Course in Miracles, you'll be familiar with the structure. If you're not, the workbook for students is something that can trip a lot of people up, can't it? I mean, when I've led workshops and seminars and groups about A Course in Miracles, where we looked at this one component called the workbook, it causes a lot of people stress. It does. Maybe it's caused you some stress because it calls for us to work on a daily idea. That's what the workbook calls a lesson, is an idea. And people stress out over that. Why? Because sometimes we forget to do it, don't we? I mean, we can all be very forgetful in life. Sometimes we forget to do the lesson. If it calls for doing 3 or 4 different practice periods, which are essentially meditations, and you only do one, well, then it's possible, it's entirely possible that this voice of the ego will creep in and say, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You suck. You're doing it wrong. And it sounds kind of harsh in the abstract, but that's how harsh we are on ourselves. So it gives us a really powerful opportunity, if we're willing to take that opportunity, to look at this voice and to see it for what it is, which is the ego talking, and deal with it from there, right? Which is, according to A Course in Miracles, forgiving it and overlooking it and forgiving yourself. It's very important that we have grace and extend ourselves some kindness, because we are our own harshest critics all too often in life. And maybe you're watching this thinking, yeah, that's me. So I have to tell you a couple of things about the workbook. Is these ideas apply to anyone. They are basic universal spirituality, and the principles apply no matter what your practice looks like. And we've been looking at forgiveness. We've been looking at how we can actually change our perception of the world, of ourselves and other people. And we've gone through the first 79 of these lessons, these ideas, on the live stream. And what it is about integration, like Terry mentioned, and I want to back that up. It's about how you incorporate these ideas into your life. That's why it's helpful to look at it from a standpoint of, well, how much have you changed while you've been practicing since you started? It's very, very helpful because it's more important that you apply and integrate these ideas into your life. You make them part of how you think. You make them part of how you show up in the world. You make them part of how you treat people. You become more loving, more joyful, happier, more forgiving, more light. Literally, you bring more light to the world when you're not carrying around as much emotional baggage, things that you haven't forgiven, that will come up for release again and again, no matter what form your spiritual practice may take. That is indeed the point. That's why we correctly say that it's not all rainbows and unicorns, to coin that phrase. It's not all beautiful, loving vibrations, because all of our stuff comes up. Now, do you treat your stuff lovingly? Or do you treat it the way that you've always treated it, with disdain, by hiding from it, maybe by fighting right back against it as though it were actually an opponent and not an illusion to be forgiven and overlooked? So it's a question all of us has to ask. It's much more important that we integrate these lessons into our lives than it is to fulfill all of the practice instructions to a T. It's a big one with A Course in Miracles students, especially in the workbook, because I hear every single time that I start the workbook in a group setting, and this is a group setting here on EWN, I hear that I'm behind. I hear that, well, I haven't been studying, so I'll wait for the next group, maybe in a year or two, right? Yeah, don't wait a year or two. That's my suggestion, is don't wait a year or two to start spiritual practice. Yeah, if you have a different practice, that's fine, that's perfect. But it matters more how you incorporate these ideas into your life. It matters more how you integrate them than the form of your actual practice. That's really, that's really where it is. That's where the action is how are you changing? How are you different showing up in the world? It's truly about the integration. And yes, while it's wonderful if you can do every single workbook lesson without ever forgetting, it's not exactly realistic, is it? Because we have so much coming at us in life that it's just really, really important that we give ourselves some grace and some self-love. Because how would it feel to you if you weren't your own worst critic? If you weren't sabotaging yourself? Let's say you weren't sabotaging yourself as much. Would you feel lighter about that? Yeah, yeah, you bet. You bet you would, for sure. We all would. And we all do when we're able to extend ourselves some grace and say, okay, I'm integrating this into my life, even if all I can do is recite the day's idea once. That is so much more than not saying it at all. And I have to tell you guys a couple of things here. This is the third time that I've been through the workbook for students. And I will tell you, the first time was a little bit rocky for me in terms of remembering things. And, I consider myself fairly detailed in certain aspects in life. So, I would have thought that it would have been really easy for me to remember to do every practice period, but it wasn't. And I remember the first time I did this, it was mind training that I needed. And I had been meditating for over 25 years and still needed mind training. So, no matter how long you've been at it, the fact that you're at it is absolutely good enough. It is. It's absolutely good enough that you're at it and that you make the choice to come back again. If you forget the day's idea, that's all right. Come back. And if you want to do it again tomorrow, do it again tomorrow or move on, right? However you want to do that, by showing up, by having the intention to show up and taking action on that, again, whatever that looks like, you're not doing spirituality wrong, and nothing is ever lost. No amount of meditation is ever too short. Now, it all adds up. It does. It is all part of your experience. And integrating all of this into your experience is far more important in the long run than did you do the recommended 6 practice periods today, or whatever the day is. A Course in Miracles is different, as you know. The workbook calls for different things every day. So if you're not a workbook student, that's okay. That's okay. This applies to all of spiritual practice, no matter what form that practice may take. All right. So, important message. Again, I want to have you, if you have not seen the show with Terry from Saturday, May 1st, to go back on the YouTube channel and take a look at that, because it's really wonderful. And I am absolutely going to have Terry come back on at some point here in the future. And we're going to do it all over again. And Bernadette, hi, how are you? Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for joining me. Guys, wherever you're joining me from today, I want to thank you for tuning in and to thank you for your effort and your practice. That's really what the most important thing is to show up with a good intention to practice whatever that is. If it's meditation, meditation. If it's prayer, say a prayer. Yeah. If it's something else, whatever that is for you. And again, integrating it into your life is a beautiful thing. And again, as we see with spirituality in general, it's the best thing that any of us could do. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in here today. Tomorrow, we're going to continue right here on the live stream with workbook lesson 80, and we'll continue on the rest of this week with the workbook for students and these really wonderful transformative ideas. So if you haven't seen any of those, check them out. If you don't own a copy of A Course in Miracles, that's okay, because there's a lot of information available online, and you could even do a Google search of it. Check that out. It's really worth it. It's a beautiful augmentation to a current spiritual practice, and a number of people use it in that way to enhance their understanding of their own walk. So that's a suggestion that is a good one. You might want to do that, and if you do, then I hope that you'll really enjoy it, because all of the lessons are applicable to any situation that we might find ourselves in. All right. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Happy Monday. And I will see you back here again on EWN tomorrow.